How's it going, guys? It's Cole with See-Through Panel showing off my November 2022 comic and manga haul. I got my package just today, December 18th, so much later, like 2 weeks later than I usually get it. And even though it's not too long before my December haul video, I felt like getting this all out of the way to keep things separate and have a nice log of when I got certain things. Um, as always, I'm not going to be spoiling anything. I'm just showing off the new books. I'll barely be flipping through them. There's a lot of books here, almost 20 full books. Only one of them is a paperback. And it's probably the biggest haul I've gotten since I started the channel, and I think probably the biggest haul I've gotten ever of comics. So, super excited. Starting with Vagabond, which technically I did not just get. I had this years ago, but I didn't have the resources or the shelf space to finish collecting the entirety of it, so I gave up, left it at my brother's house. But since you guys have been really recommending it to me a lot lately, I decided to go back and get it. I'm going to reread this volume, which is actually 3 volumes, and go through the series for the first time mostly, besides this first book. So excited for that. Thank you guys for recommending it to me enough that I went back and got my old copy. So up next, I do want to say my favorite thing I'm going to show last. It's my very favorite thing from this haul. I've been waiting for it for a long time. It's the most expensive thing from this haul, and it's awesome. So either if you really feel like it, skip to that because it's cool, or wait for it. I would prefer that, but obviously do whatever makes you happy. So, The Hunting Party by Enki Bilal, and Pierre Kristen. So, story by Kristen, I think it's Kristen, and art by Enki Bilal. Humanoids published it, and it's $17, which is so cheap. I've always wanted to have something with Enki Bilal's art in it in my collection, but I never knew what to get. Sometimes it's expensive, other times they're out of print. The Nicopole trilogy is usually in print, but I never really had the space for it. I never knew what I wanted out of his art, but I'm excited to have it now. It's very... his art looks a lot like a lot of my favorite European classical comic artists, and he's very, very unique, though. A lot of like texture to his work. His use of colors is very different from someone like Mobius, per se, even though his art can resemble Mobius in some ways, like the faces. But yeah, it's very, very unique. I haven't finished reading this. I'm only about halfway through it, probably only a quarter way through it, and it is really, really cool so far. I'm really happy to have it. Really happy to finally have his art in my library. So that is The Hunting Party. Next up, let's get Marvel out of the way. I've only got 2 Marvel books. I don't collect a ton of Marvel anymore. So we've got Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky, oversized hardcover, volume 3, $45 US, which is a little weird. I'll get to that. Doesn't collect Devil's Reign either, and so I'm going to have to buy a trade of that, which is kind of strange, and I'm not huge on how Marvel is handling their collections lately, but maybe the next hardcover will collect Devil's Reign. I'm not sure. But I do love Daredevil so much as a character, and this run has been really, really fun. I've been keeping up with it in single issues, although I'm not entirely caught up. I'm a few issues behind. But Chichato's art, and even the fill-in artists like Mike Hawthorne in this one, are just fantastic. And Zdarsky really knows what he's doing in this kind of story, although I wasn't sure about him going in. I thought he was more of a comedy guy, but he's been doing this series a real justice here, and the art has been fantastic throughout, so really, really happy to have that. Always love more Daredevil, and one of the only things I collect from Marvel anymore. Speaking of which, I'm done collecting the Immortal Hulk now. This is the final hardcover, the 5th volume of the hardcover, 41 through 50. The hardcovers didn't collect any of the special issues, so I'm hoping they're not important. Art by Joe Bennett, a few fill-ins as well. Written only by Al Ewing. I was happy to have no fill-in writers and not a lot of fill-in artists in this series. When they do fill in the art, it's usually with someone I really, really love, so that's totally fine with me. Yeah, this story is just a one of a kind story for Marvel. I think a body horror Hulk series. You'd never assumed that would have happened, and I don't think we'll get anything like it again unless it's just someone trying to impersonate this run, which is not a bright idea in my opinion, but what I have read of this has been awesome. People loved it, and it was just ridiculously well reviewed. And some of the stuff that Joe Bennett draws, although I don't like Joe Bennett as a person, I do like his art, and it's sometimes difficult to separate those, but it is what it is. I still want to buy the book, and yeah, this stuff is just really, really cool. So happy to have that done. That is all the Marvel, and there's no DC in this, which is weird. Let's get Image out of the way. And oh, what I wanted to say was Daredevil is 45 and the Hulk is 40 for the price point. So just remember that. This book I already had. You might have seen it in one of my other haul videos, but I got a cool signed book plate that I put in there by Brubaker and Phillips. That I put in there at a nice, not straight at all angle, which I should have had someone better than me do that. But that's cool. The people I order my books from just had that in addition to buying the book, and it came a little later than the book, but I was still happy to have that. So up next is Gideon Falls, Book 2, hardcover, The Eater of All Things, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Andrea Sorrentino, and colors by Dave Stewart. Spot varnish here. Really cool production on the cover. Spot varnish. Is it... Let's see the binding here. It looks glued to me. Yeah, it's a glued binding, I think. That's fine. Well, the quality of it's really nice. And it is $40. So I'm just wondering why Daredevil was 45. This one's 45, this one's 40. And that one's 40. So why was Daredevil $45? I have no idea. I'm not sure at all. Marvel's pricing is usually not the best compared to some other publishers that I buy from. I usually find like indie stuff or like Euro or Manga is priced much better than superhero comics in general. Mainstream comics, probably because they're more, you know, widely bought, bigger company. Yeah, but Gideon Falls, a horror series, art by Sorrentino, as I said, and I love Sorrentino's art. He's not somebody I think of normally when I think of my favorite artists, but whenever I see his art, I'm just blown away. It can at times be a little too photorealistic, a little too referencey, but I think he does, just some of the stuff he does, in terms of like texture and visual kind of design, I guess. I don't know what I would exactly call it. He's very, very off the wall, very unique. He does things that no other artists do, like these insert panels that just pop up sometimes. You may have seen him on Green Arrow. His layouts are wild. You may have seen him on Green Arrow with Jeff Lemire. That's where I first found him. And he's just really cool. Jeff Lemire is a great, great writer. I don't think I've read anything bad from him, although I've heard some bad stuff from his work with the Big Two, but that's work with the Big Two. I wouldn't blame anybody for that. And yeah, this is like a one-of-a-kind horror book for me. It's more of a thriller from what I've read in the first book, but the art and writer combination, you're just not going to get a more like prestige horror book than this, really. Up next, Die, oversized hardcover from Image. Huge. It's printed like the size of a Remender book. This was $60 US and collects the first complete story of this critically acclaimed. Makes me think they're going to do more, which is cool. Written by Kieran Gillen, art by Stephanie Hans, and colors, I believe, by Clayton Cowles. Let's see, or is that letters? I'm sorry, letters by Clayton Cowles. Get that mixed up far too often. So Hans is doing her own coloring, which I should have known going in once you see this. This is a story about a D&D game, and the players get sucked into the world. And that sounds kind of cliche and dorky, but the art is so breathtaking, and the story is actually very dark and mature, and he really takes the concept of being stuck in this fictional world very, very seriously in a way that works for me. And the players just want to get out of here, and it's just a very unique story that I was really excited when it first came out. I never actually got to finish it because I stopped collecting single issues, and I just never picked it up digitally. But Hans's art is just awesome. You normally would only see covers from her, but now you're getting just full-fledged storytelling, and she does great. I'm not sure if she's done any other interiors, not that I know of, but here it just works. She just comes through and is professional level and just kills it. So really, really good. Coloring is awesome too. It's all her, and she does great. Like the red and blues just on this page alone just play so well off each other, especially there. I need to lift this up for the camera, but it's so heavy. Must be like around 20 issues, maybe a little less. Doesn't actually say on the back. The design's really cool too, by the way. The D20 kind of like unfolded layout. Yeah, it just says the first complete story. But she did do the covers for Journey into Mystery, and I think the very final issue. So that's where I knew her from, and I love Kieran Gillen. That was my introduction to Kieran Gillen as well. So this is just a cool thing for both of them to work on this book together and make it so special in that way. Book 2 of Monstrous. Fahad and I talked about this on the podcast probably a year ago or so. Really cool fantasy series written by Marjorie Liu, art by Sana Takeda, published by Image in this huge, oversized hardcover. And retailing for $50. $5 more than Daredevil, which is, I know I'm sticking with that, but it's really weird. Varnish on the letters there. Back art is great. Sana Takeda, one of those artists that have a similar quality from their covers to their interiors. Great map. If you listen to the podcast at all, wow, the black and white art looks beautiful there too. If you listen to the podcast at all, we talked about the first, I think, 12 issues of this book, and they are just something else. The world building is so deep in this story. Lettering and design by Russ Wooten, I will say also, does a great job. The world building is so deep, the story is so complex, the characters are so consistent, it really gets you immersed in a fantasy story, and I'm a fantasy fan. I love a lot of fantasy books and games and things like that, but I found when I got into comics, the thing I was really lacking was like a deep fantasy story to really get lost in, and I hope someone can recommend some to me in the comments, but this really filled that for me. This is an awesome like genre-defying, globe-trotting fantasy book. Different countries, different races, different like magics and technologies and things like that. Stuff that you really love if you're into fantasy and sci-fi. I will say The Last God recently from Philip Kennedy Johnson and Riccardo Federici was fantastic fantasy also. But Sana Takeda is breathtaking all the time. Her designs are wonderful. Very manga-influenced designs, it looks like to me, but the coloring and the actual rendering is not very manga. I would say it's more traditional comics, maybe even a little Euro. She definitely has that manga kind of layouts and motion, which I like, in her designs as well. But other than that, just an entire unique style, all her own, and just really awesome. Also, a book by 2 female creators, which is basically unheard of, at least in American comics. So, wonderful stuff. That is Image out of the way. Let's go to this, because this is awesome. Heracles, book 1 through 3 by Magnetic Press. Lion Forge imprint, I believe. Maybe that's backwards, I don't know. Edouard Kerr, I hope I said that right. Kerr? These are dusty. I can see that, you can't really see it from the light, but there you go. Yeah, they're dusty. They were sitting in a warehouse for a long time because this book came out a while ago, and I apparently didn't sell well. I don't know. These were each like $30 on the website for Magnetic Press. I was going to buy them individually, and they had a deal to get like all 3 of the books for $30 or $40 and save like half or more of the cost. So I was going to buy them all anyway. Check the website if this art interests you, and it will, because it's wonderful. But written and illustrated by Kerr. Originally retailing for $20 US. So you can save some money and get the bundle on this if it's still there. I only bought them like 2 weeks ago. So check the Magnetic Press site for that. God, that's just, even the end papers are, I assume they're going to be red on this one, and probably blue on this one. I never actually opened these much besides the first one. So while they are a bit dirty from sitting in a warehouse, they are also a hell of a take on the Heracles myth. And the art is just so cool to me. Here's our boy getting kind of trippy because he ate a scorpion right there. This is one of the things I'm most excited about besides the last thing I'm going to show. But the art is just like nothing I've ever seen. It's almost like super indie American comics you would see from like Outlaw stuff, but it's a Euro kind of flair to it. The rendering is so simple, but he puts a million lines on it. Like almost no lines in the figure. So much open space with the color, but just everything around it is just hatched and crossed, and so much motion too. The uncolored arrow is really cool. I just noticed that. Him running here, that's the perspective also is, yeah, God, I love the story. I read most of it in digital format before I ordered these books, and I stopped myself, and I'm going to reread the whole thing again. It's so cool. It's so cool. Look at the silhouette of him there. And this kind of both equal. They rendered in a very similar way, which is very interesting. Yeah, and just really great comedy in this, like just little panels that make it almost like a slice of life book, but he's also fighting like a Nemean lion here, and it's just I can't say enough good things about this story. I've almost never heard it talked about, and it is just so cool. I got nothing to say about it that I haven't already said. I also don't have a lot of adjectives. I already know that. The design of this guy, I looked at this first and I thought it was just like an expressive face. His face is kind of like a hook shape all the time, which is funny to me. Yeah, can be a serious at times, very deep story, very intricate, but it has a great sense of humor to it. And if you thought the rendering or the coloring was getting a little stale, it will change, I promise you. It gets very different and just stays fresh the entire time. Yeah, can't wait to reread those. Definitely going to do a video on them. They are so cool, so cool. Let's do the only bit of manga, which is Shuna's Journey by Hayao Miyazaki, something I was completely unaware of and super excited to get. I thought the only work of Miyazaki I would get in paper format that's not like a DVD would be Nausicaa, the big box set that I have, but this is something else entirely. It is entirely colored and looks like painted, published by First Second. Retailing for $28. I highly recommend you get it, especially if you like Miyazaki's style in his movies and things. I haven't read the entire thing yet, but it's super quick. I opened it up today and read like a quarter of it without realizing I was even reading it. I just wanted to flip through it. And it's full color. It's full color manga, which you just don't see. I mean, I even hazard to call it manga because Miyazaki's style is just so unique and feels almost untouched by his peers in manga. Like, he's not influenced by anyone but himself. I'm sure he's got influences, but to me it just is such a unique style. I've been saying that about everyone, but tell me it's not true. Look back on the art and tell me it's not true. And if you think it's not true, please tell me what they look like, because I would love to see people that look like this. Yeah. Very Nausicaa. In fact, that is just Nausicaa. Although I think Shuna is a prince, so we kind of got like the... Yeah, he looks like every Miyazaki protagonist that I've seen from like his early stuff, which is fine. I get it all mixed up. This is such an influence on Nausicaa. Is this before or after Nausicaa? Because this is basically just Nausicaa, but in full color with a little bit of a different flair to it. That's used a lot. This is very interesting stuff. I need to read this and kind of understand where in time it fits and stuff, because that's a weird image. Very non-Miyazaki. It doesn't look like Miyazaki to me. Yeah, my favorite stuff from Miyazaki's films would be Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle. I'm just gonna list them all. Those two are probably my favorite. I love Spirited Away too. Everyone loves all of them. They're great. Universally loved. This book looks awesome. Super excited to have it in my collection. Let's go Dynamite. One of the only Dynamite books I have in my collection, because I'm not a huge guy for Cheesecake and Red Sonja and Vampirella and stuff like that, which I am mostly aware of Dynamite for that stuff. Peter Cannon Thunderbolt, written by Kieran Gillen. A lot of Kieran Gillen today. I don't know why. It's probably like 2 books I have by Kieran before today, and now I've got like 6. Art by Casper Wingard. 5 issues of Peter Cannon Thunderbolt, and looks like it was retailing for $30 US. Spot varnish right there. Nice production. Oversized, as you can tell, it's pretty freaking huge. There's European size. I mean, that's about standard hardcover size, probably. But yeah, oversized for sure. 5-issue miniseries. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read this, and it's been a long time since I read online that it was awesome and everyone was freaking out. It was at least 3-4 years ago. And as soon as this got solicited, I was like, oh yeah, everyone said that was really cool. So I'm just going to get it and pick it up. So I'm happy to have it finally. I'm super excited to read it. Kieran Gillen's a fantastic artist. And Casper, I was recently interested in his work on, or Caspar, I don't know, in his work on Homesick Pilots, which looks like really great, artistically fantastic. I think this stuff looks really cool, but when I looked at Homesick Pilots, I was astounded. I think this is a little before that, and Homesick Pilots would just be the next evolution in his style, and it is super cool, and I would love to collect that as well. But yeah, this is I don't know what this is. I have no idea what this is. I just know, I'm pretty sure this is the character that Ozymandias from Watchmen was based on, and it's kind of a play on that. Kieran Gillen's very aware of that, but also doing a story all his own. That's all I know about it. That's it. So he's just a super genius guy. I assume, yeah, he knows some martial arts and stuff, classic stuff. Don't know what the story actually is. I know it gets kind of meta and wacky, but mostly here for Gillen's writing and Wingard's art. That's a Kieran Gillen layout if I've ever seen. That was definitely in the script. Like Gillen said, do the 9-panel layout, but make it with like lines and snow. Like it feels very him. He loves to do that kind of thing. Let's go. My only book from Titan. This is a long video, guys. I had so many books. My only book from Titan, Static Press imprint by Vincent Perio? Perio? I hope that's correct. Harriet? Negaliad, The God Network by Titan, obviously, Static Press. Retailing for $40 US. Suggested for mature readers. Not sure what that's about. This sold me on it after the art did. The art actually sold me, but this Dinotopia meets Mad Max in a basically post-apocalyptic tale. Super cool. End papers already sold on the art. The way they draw these dinosaurs and pterodactyls and kind of, it's like a western. It's basically like a dinosaur western post-apocalyptic story. It's a vengeance story. The back actually said that too, and this was after I bought it. He enacts revenge on those responsible for the murder of his flock. That's a classic western story if I've ever seen one. And the art feels very Euro-Western. Euro-Western as in Western, like Wild West, not like America. But yeah, the art speaks for itself. Super, super cool. A style I'm very familiar with and very comfortable with, but done in a kind of different genre than I would expect. Obviously, because I always go back to this, it reminds me of Mobius's Western stuff, but like Blueberry. But this is definitely a different take on that style, and very much an evolution of that. The coloring also seems very cool, very flat, and yeah, very flat in parts, with some gradient on like the dinosaur here. Yeah, it looks really, really cool. That's a striking image too. The depth at play there is really, really cool. To see the landscape in the back makes it feel very distant. Very, very effective art. Oh, and just the despair present on our main, I assume to be our main character. Despair and anger. That's expressive. That's awesome stuff. And you don't even get to see his face until the last panel, and it's still so expressive. The shot of his knees hitting the ground, then he's going down on all fours there, and then head in his hands. Yeah, super, super cool. Really excited to read this. This is just I bought this on a lark. I saw it in the previews, looked at the cover, looked up some of the art online, and was like, yes, this is for me. This is something I will love, and I'm sure I will. We're getting close. I think we've got 3 more books, and then the final thing. Dark Horse, singular trade paperback. The only paperback, I'm pretty sure, from the haul. Yeah. I think like 17 books in this haul. It's going to be a long one, I'm sorry. The Return of Effie Kolb, The Return of Effie Kolb and Others, obviously story by Mike Mignola, Zach Howard, is on art with Adam Hughes, Matt Smith, Tiernan Trevelyan, Dave Stewart on colors. So this is before Dave Stewart leaves all the Hellboy books. He's probably still on some of them. I just know he doesn't do all of them anymore. The Bones of Giants and the Sword of Hyperborea video, you could check that out. Those are two books not colored by Dave Stewart, but two books that were very much in that same vein and worked out really well. And he has left his mark on Hellboy forever. So, $20 US for this paperback. A host of stories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories here, all one-shots, I believe. What I found interesting was Mignola is credited as the only story, the only writer. Stories by Mike Mignola. Usually you'll have a secondary writer, or the artist will be credited as putting in work on the story here. I have an idea of what that might be about, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say anything. But apparently it's all by him, and it's been a while since I read something strictly scripted by Mike Mignola. Like, it says stories by, so I want to know who wrote the scripts. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. I could look up the single issues that is probably credited in those issues, but strange. But it's always great to see Adam Hughes in Hellboy. He must just like doing Hellboy stories, or maybe just Mignola pays the bills, I don't know. But Zach Howard I'm not super familiar with, and his art immediately stands out. It is just, it works beautifully in the Hellboy style that is very set now. It's set in stone. You don't have to have, but you're expected to have a certain style when you come to a Hellboy book. Halfway between Guy Davis and Mignola, somewhere in there. You have to be somewhere around there. But Zach Howard said he just would do his own style and people will love it. And I love it so far. It works super well. And I'm really, really happy to have a new artist that I'm aware of on this world that I love so much, the Hellboy world. Yeah, super, super happy to have that. Let's get through some other stories. I want to make sure I get the credits right. Matt Smith will be next. Oh, what the... And then Tiernan Trevelyan is the person I'm unaware of. That'll be this. This is more the style I'm thinking of. Actually, this is Long Night. So that's all Howard. This is now Matt Smith. I'm losing myself. This is now Matt Smith. Long Night. That's a long first issue. Interesting. And then this is Tiernan Trevelyan. Matt Smith, Tiernan look to be in the style I expect when I open up a BPRD book. Flat colors, really impressionistic figures, and a lot of silhouettes, a lot of scene panels with just making up the scene. I don't know if we'll get one of those yet, but that's very Mignola to just have a little tiny inset panel. And then let's go to Adam Hughes, who's just, again, does not fit the typical style, but because he's such a badass, he gets to do whatever he wants in BPRD. His figures always stand out. They look like they're like one Photoshop layer up from everything else, which isn't bad, obviously. It just looks very specific to me. It stands out a lot. Thick black outlines on the figures as well, like his tail there. Just a swooping black line there. He does have a Photoshop-y kind of use of shadows and ink. Like, see if I can, yeah. It does look digital to me, like the way shadows rest on people, but it still looks great. Like, Hughes is an artist that I've not found a lot of people to compare to. And the fact that he does Hellboy stories is just a +1 for me, because it's just not what you'd expect, ever. And the fire effect there is cool, really cool. It's just a white, like a hot white outline with some yellow in it. So effective. Digital coloring there. I think he definitely colors himself, right? Because he would have to. Yeah, art and colors by Adam Hughes. Yeah, you don't get that kind of like texture and shadow on the face without doing the art and the color. But yeah, I forgot I was doing a haul video. I'm not doing a video on just that book. Sumerian, Volume 4, last book before the last one. Ablaze Comics, $30 US. It's just a Conan story. I don't want to flip through it too much, because this is one of those Conan books that allows for nudity, and which is like their whole... They build it as such originally to get people on board. Now I think people stay for the art and incredible storytelling that is usually present in the Ablaze books. I don't think they can call it Conan on the cover, but it's most definitely Conan. And the art is fantastic. Matthew Gabella is the writer and artist with writer and artist with Anthony Jean as an artist. Interesting. So one of them is doing inks, or maybe it's a collaboration, and then Julian Blondell writing and Valentine Secher doing art for the second story. Can't remember if I said. Oh yeah, I did say $30 US. Yeah, so just buy these for the really cool range of art. You get some art that looks very Euro, very manga, very American, very unique in its own style. You get a little bit of everything, but it's all packaged into this kind of grim, pulpy fantasy story you expect from Conan. And this art does not disappoint, just like I thought. Always bringing something fresh to the table with Ablaze. This next art is just... They're both fantastic, but this one really gets it for me. This looks like... it's not Frazetta painting level, but it looks very painterly, and it looks very detailed, and it's very fantasy. It's like textbook fantasy art. When you want a fantasy story, this is the art you want for it, in my opinion. And it looks awesome. So I'm super excited for this book. 4th volume of Sumerian. I haven't even read the 3rd yet. I need to get on that. This final book I want to talk about, I will do a separate video on. Thank you for making it this far. If you did, or if you skipped to it, that's fine. It's the Incal by Jodorowsky and Moebius, published by Humanoids. This is not the copy I'm talking about. I just brought this out to show you the old book I had. I also have a graffiti edition with the Moebius signature. Shout out my brother. That was one of the best gifts I've ever been given. So I've got now 3 copies of the Incal because I got this gigantic slip-cased deluxe edition that does not fit into frame. It has like a fucking cap on it to take off to get the book out. Excuse my language. I'm really excited about this, and I already am gushing about it. But yeah, huge like case with a cap. Great art. Like classic Incal stuff. Then you also get this like folio thing. This is all like faux leathery texture, by the way. It's like a textured... It's not like just cardboard, but you get this in here with it, with an iconic page, and just black and white. And you could take these out, obviously. They're just sitting in here. I would never do that, unless I want to put them on the wall or something, but... And that just fits nicely in the box. I will say, this retailed for $150. So I got this for probably 35 or 40% off, so I still paid a lot. It was still the most expensive book in the haul. And here is a size comparison. Got to turn it sideways to fit in frame. Big. It's big. The reason I wanted this was because I have the final Incal with art by Ledron, and I wish I got that out. I wish I would have got that out for this video. I'll do it for the one about this book specifically. It's huge, and it's in the same format, and I love the final Incal almost as much as the first Incal. Before the Incal is good, but those two are my favorite. And I just had to have... Jesus. That is just awesome. So, one of my favorite stories of all time. I can't flip through it a lot, because there's going to be so much nudity, but I'm so happy to have this. I don't know where I'm going to put it on my shelf. I've got no room. Let's real quick get my other copy here and show you the same page. So here's this one. I mean, finishes wise, you can't tell really a difference. The size is the real difference here. And yeah, I'm just a sucker for the Incal. This makes no sense as a purchase. This is literally my 3rd Incal book. But, I mean, you can't blame me. You could blame me if you want, I don't care. It's awesome. It's just too cool. It's too cool to not have this. And I'm so, so happy to have the huge deluxe edition of this book in my collection. I will do a deep dive on this book and the differences in it. I don't really even have to pull up my camera to show off stuff because it's so huge. But I will anyway, because Moebius is so detailed. Yeah, just so, so, so cool. So happy to have it. The end papers are like glaring, like it's a Hulk green. But yeah, it's really cool. This video has been long enough. Just great stuff. Zoran Janjitov on colors, is he not? He might be the guy that does before the Incal, and I feel like he is. But yeah, this is just super cool. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Probably easily my longest video. It was a lot of books. I have to now put them all on the shelf, and it is 2:30 a.m., so I'm going to get going on this. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate all these subs and comments I've had lately. Thank you a ton for getting involved in my channel, and I really, 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 really appreciate it. I'll say really like 6 more times. Thanks a lot.